don't think we have to care about the environment? Like, what do you...
No, not even a little bit. Like,
Not even a little bit?
no.
Self-proclaimed free thinker Candace Owens was on the Joe Rogan podcast yesterday, and Joe Rogan did a very good job of pressing her and challenging her on her ideas and opinions on climate change. And it just so happens that this so-called free thinker, her ideology and her political views coincidentally line up completely with Fox News right-wing conservatism. And it's no surprise that she started to falter under Joe Rogan's pressing, because this is the first time in her young career that Candace Owens has really been challenged. She hasn't been challenged on college campuses because you might have a 2-3 minute back and forth with someone asking a question, but that's in front of a crowd, and that's not long form, so one-liners reign supreme. Nothing gets accomplished. And of course on Fox News and PragerU, Candace, no challenges to her ideology, which in fact is just completely in line with right-wing conservatism. They've never been made. So Joe Rogan did an incredible job of pressing her and challenging her and exposing her ignorance on this topic. Let's take a look at the video.
I fell victim to the idea that, like, it was progress. We have to care about the environment. It was progress. And it's like, no, like, we've been losing. America has been losing. And Donald Trump understood that in a way that I didn't. And I thought... You
don't think we have to care about the environment? Like, what do you...
No, not even a little bit. Like,
Not even a little bit?
No. Okay, let me clarify this. I don't throw trash on the ground. Like,
Okay.
I'm not saying, like, we need to, like, trash the environment. Like, but do I believe in climate change? No.
You don't believe in climate change?
Well, I think the climate always changes, I guess is what I should say. Do I believe that this is, like, an issue that is being, that is global warming, which they've changed conveniently. They got rid of the word once scientists started disproving it. Now they only say climate change. No, I think that was just a way to extract dollars from Americans. I don't at all believe. They had no actionable plan. It was great for Trump to get out of that deal. It was terrible.
Okay, but this is an incredibly complicated subject.
Right.
And if you would have to talk to a bunch of different scientists and see how they gather data and see what they understand about CO2 levels and what's the danger of them and what can combat it and what could not. Have you done all this, or
No,
do you
so I
take
think-
this flippant opinion
Listen,
based on the
I'm
party
not.
line?
This wouldn't be the hill I died on, right? But it's not about the party. I just genuinely, I've read a ton about it, but
What
I
have
would
you
not
read?
be able to. I would not be able to come to you and say, like, this is my strong opinion. But here's, like, the easiest way to say this, right?
Okay.
The fact that there is a disparity in the science community about whether or not it's real is enough to.
It's very little.
Yep.
Very little disparity.
But-
Most scientists, the vast majority, agree that human beings are negatively affecting climate change.
Yeah.
The vast majority.
Yeah. I just don't think so.
So you think that the very few scientists that disagree with the
Yeah.
consensus are the ones that are correct?
Well, I think if something is. It's either subjective or it's objective, and there are objective truths, right? But it's subjective if you're saying that there are some, and I don't think there's very little. There are some that don't get paid to go on TV. There's some that are not Bill Nye, who are not funded scientists, and that has been a whole.
Well, Bill Nye's not a scientist.
I know.
He's not. He's
It broke my heart when I found out.
science
Mouthpiece.
propagandist.
Yeah, that's the point.
He's
And
a science. No, that's not a good word.
I don't think Al
mean
Gore is a
propaganda in
scientist.
He's not.
Right.
But Bill Nye is like a science influencer or
Right.
a science entertainer.
Yeah, he's like a.
But he doesn't have a
like,
background in actual science. He's not a scientist.
Right.
He doesn't have a PhD.
and
He's got an
I learned about him in
undergraduate-
school. Everything I did
Yeah.
in science had to do with Bill Nye.
Well,
the science
he
guy.
promotes science, and
Right.
science is not bad.
Yeah.
But the real problem is with climate change is that, for sure, there has been ups and downs throughout the history of this planet. They're observable. They follow them in. I mean, it was one of the subjects that I had earlier today with Dr. Robert Schoch. In 2014, the vast majority, 87% of scientists, said that human activity is driving global warming, yet only half the American public ascribe to that view. So,
Well, what website is
87%, and this is,
Scientific American.
yeah.
this? Yeah, .com though, like, 'cause that means it's making money. I don't trust that. If it was a .org, I would probably take that. But this is just a random website, and
Well,
I don't trust
Scientific
it.
American is not necessarily a random website. It's,
Yeah, I don't believe this, like, at all. Just so you know.
You don't believe it, like, at all?
I genuinely don't believe it. I know you do, but I genuinely
Well,
don't believe it.
I
Like,
believe most of the time, the consensus of scientists that are studying the data.
Right.
And so what they're doing is
But
studying.
do you remember all of the stories that came out about the scientists that said that when they tried to present their evidence to show, like, they were basically just getting shut down at every corner? You can pull that up too, like scientists who look up the opposite, right? Instead of looking for what you're searching for, looking for what you're not looking for.
That's not what I didn't search for it. That's what I found when I searched it.
Sorry.
Yeah,
but yeah. Look up.
But this is my question.
Yeah.
Why are you so sure? This is
because what you just said. Because what you just said.
This is an extremely complicated subject.
And it is. I said I am not so sure that I would die on the hill for it. Mm-hmm. My opinion right now, and is just that it was a means, because forget the fact of whether you believe global warming is real. Let's say it's 100% real. Let's say we know for a fact it's real. Is there a way?
Well, let's be clear.
Yeah.
Global warming, climate change is definitely real. It's happening.
Well,
the question
but it's
is why
always
is it
happened.
happening? Yes, it has always happened.
So what is the climate change? Yes, the climate changes. It was different weather yesterday than it was today. The climate is forever changing. Like that's the problem, is that people are making it seem like that's something weird.
No,
that's
not. You're misrepresenting the issue. The issue is people think that human beings are exacerbating climate change to the point where there's a tipping point. We cross over that tipping point. We're going to deal with huge problems that could be corrected if we act now and put a lot of funding into climate control.
Okay.
And this is what Howard Bloom was on talking about a few days ago. He was talking about that the real future involves the technology of climate control, and that what we have to be really careful of is letting it get too far where you can't ever stop it and pull it back. This is what scientists are warning about. This is why they want emission standards. This is why they want to figure out how to get people to be aware of the fact that this is a real issue.
Okay.
Now, irregardless, human beings, if they never existed, the Earth has constantly gone through cycles. The question is not whether or not the Earth has gone through cycles of cooling and warming.
Right.
The question is, are we exacerbating that? The vast majority of scientists say we are.
Okay.
Now, this could negatively impact all sorts of coastal cities. This could be a gigantic problem. This is not like propaganda that's drummed up by some sort of big business that seeks to make money off of this, or some sort of a
they were
organization.
making money off of it.
Al Gore might have made some money off of it.
No, but
who's making money
the
off
agreement
of
that we were in, that was like the amount of money that America was losing. But here's what I was going to ask you. So let's just
Wait a minute, the amount of money America was losing? Who is America?
In the Paris Agreement. This is the reason why we wanted to get out of the Paris Agreement. But that's what I wanted to get to.
There's
so let's say we all agree that global
agreement.
Warming is real. I don't believe it's real. Okay, so I can't sit here.
But here's the question. But why have a belief?
What do you mean?
Why have a belief as to whether or not global warming is real or not real?
Because
if
I just find that when things
you don't
you're
understand
correct,
the science.
you are correct.
But why have a belief in it?
Right. So it's not a belief. It's not a belief in it. I don't believe in it.
But that's what I'm saying. But you have a belief that it doesn't exist.
Right. I personally think that this was just the fact that it was presented to us by Al Gore, and it's
not presented to us just by Al Gore.
Right.
Al Gore made a film,
right,
and he's been called like the first green billionaire.
Yeah.
He's made a shitload of money off of that.
And he flies in his private plane because he's so worried about the emissions. Okay.
That is hilarious.
Yeah,
there's something hilarious about that.
All of the people that are telling
us. But he's a fucking politician.
Right.
You know, there's grossness to all that stuff.
Right. And that's what worries me. So my question is, let's say that it's real.
Okay.
Let's just assume, like, if that's the best way to have the debate. Let's say it's 100% real. Do you feel that you have found in your research that there is something that human beings can do that would change this all around?
It's possible, yes. One of the things that they're figuring out how to pull carbon out of the atmosphere and even possibly reuse it. There's all sorts of things that people are trying to do. I mean, we had what was the young man who made that device? Boyan Slot. He figured out a way to make this device that pulls plastic out of the oceans. They're figuring out a way to.
That's important.
Yeah, there's a lot of.
Well, because plastic just can't over time. But that's what I mean. Like, so when I say that I'm I believe in recycling. Like, I'm not like a person that's like this is. But the idea that the government is just going to take trillions of dollars because we're in some agreement where we're all agreeing that we should do something is useless. And look, from the stuff. Like, there's obviously a lot of debate here, and as I said, like, I'm not so. The one thing you always find with me is I'll never pretend to be so educated on something. Like, I'm not going on college campuses talking about global warming. I don't do that.
Right, but why are you saying that you don't think it exists?
I don't know. Maybe because it got because it got so politicized.
Studies into scientific agreement on human-caused global warming, and look at all the studies. It's between 100% and 91% at the lowest, 91% of one of the studies from 2014.
This is the Union of Concerned Scientists.org.
Yeah. They almost, it's a pretty broad consensus.
Who are they polling? Is it the people that are a part of this .org? That's what I'm asking.
10,306 scientists to confirm over 97% of climate scientists agree, and over 97% of the scientific articles find that global warming is real and largely caused by humans. Right. So my question to you is, if you want to step outside of the scientific consensus, which is vast and involves 10,306 scientists, and just say, I don't believe in it, even if you're right, you don't have enough information to say that.
Right. No, but that's what I said. This is the whole point.
But you're saying you don't believe it.
I would have to have someone sit down and convince me that it was real. I personally don't believe it. That's okay.
But why?
It's good to start at a place of not believing something.
No, it's not.
You think you should start with believing everything.
No, it's not believe either or. Not believe yes, not believe no.
Yeah.
But don't say you don't believe.
Yeah.
Learn about it.
Yeah.
Learn about it and then have an opinion. But you're stating this opinion without having any real understanding of what climate science is.
But that's exactly what an opinion is. I'm not going, like I said, if you said that, Candice, you went on to 10,000 college campuses and you said that global warming wasn't real, then we'd have a problem. You and I are just having a conversation.
Yeah, but why have an opinion on something that you don't have data about? This is my question. I don't necessarily have an opinion on climate science. I really don't. Because I don't know much about it. But what I do know is that what I've read is that the vast majority of people who study it are in agreement that human beings are affecting it.
So just my recall on a lot of things that I read, and this was a while ago, so this is when I first formed my opinion on not believing this, I read a shit ton of articles. Can't recall the data because, like I said, this wasn't something I was super passionate about. It was like somebody posted something, and then I went on like a tear reading about it. But it was essentially just noting that in a lot of these studies, like when you go and if we had time to sit down and really pull this up, they're polling, 10,000 scientists that are within a community that is like these .orgs. Do you believe in everything that MediaMatters.org puts out for statistics? Right, that's a political arm of the Democratic Party.
Talking about a different subject.
I know, but
but politics versus science.
But this has been politicized. That's the thing.
Science has been politicized.
Yes, it has. Global warming in particular has been politicized. 100% it has been politicized. Right, that's the whole reason I fell down this dark hole one night reading about it, and I was like, you know what? At the end of the day, I don't really care.
It has been politicized, but I think that's also maybe why you're saying you don't agree with it so quickly.
Right.
Because it's an ideological right-wing point.
Right.
Is that global warming isn't real.
Right.
If you're one of those people that thinks global warming isn't real, you're almost always on the right.
Right. And that's fine. But I'm telling you that, again, I didn't do a deep dive on all of this because I read about it because it was at a forefront of a discussion. So I read about it all night. And my conclusion was that they started pulling up all of these studies from the person that, did this that I did a deep dive on. And they started showing how, these community of scientists were in fact somewhere behind that .org is someone that was being funded. So to me, the issue got too politicized for me to believe that global warming was something that was going to wipe out the world. Now,
scientists get funded. That is a fact.
Yes.
But that doesn't mean that the funding affects the scientific research and the data, which they all agree on. And this is universally across the entire planet.
Yeah.
Thousands and thousands of scientists would not stake their reputation on false data. What they're saying is not that the only reason why the world is getting warm is because human beings. That the only reason why the climate isn't totally static for the rest of eternity is because of human beings. What they're saying is we are negatively impacting our own environment, and we're doing it because we have poor technology and we use coal and fossil fuels and emissions, and we're raising our CO2 levels, and this is based on data. And this is something that you can look at. You could look at the data and follow where they're getting this information from, and follow how they're making these conclusions, and follow the vast majority of these brilliant people who study this shit their whole life.
Yeah, exactly. And if I was a person that was putting forth policy on climate change, or if I was a person that put out my opinion publicly on climate change, I would do all of that. I'm just not.
I understand what you're saying, but what I'm saying is that you're a very smart person, and people listen to you, and they're going to listen to you for a long time.
But this is what I hate. This is what I hate.
But hold
because
on,
then it's like, Candice, you have to have a formed opinion on everything.
No, you don't have to have a formed opinion on everything. What you do have to have is the ability to know when you don't know what the fuck you're talking about.
But I just said that. I said that to you the entire time.
I said
this
believe it.
I said I don't believe it. And then you asked me, and I said this wouldn't be the hill I chose to die on because I don't
but why
follow
even
it.
say you don't believe in it?
Because I just personally, if you
how about not have a belief until you really have looked at the
you
data?
would prefer if my language, as opposed to admitting that I do not know this, I wouldn't die on this hill, I've never made a video, I've never made a public statement. You would have preferred if I had just started by saying I have no opinion.
No, I don't know.
Okay.
That's what I'm saying. You say
but I said I didn't know.
No, you say I don't believe in it.
Yeah.
I don't believe in it. You're saying really clearly that you don't think it's real.
Yeah. So I mean, I think it would be the same if I said to you, like, do you believe in God? Right.
No, I would say I don't know.
You would say so. That's this. I feel like this is sort of like linguistics, though.
No, I would say I don't know.
Okay.
I always say I don't know.
I don't know.
I'm agnostic.
Most people say like I believe it or I don't. Right. So it's like if you say.
I think a lot of people say they don't know.
Okay, I think believe is definitely a word that's associated with God. But
right.
So
but a lot of people
if I say
that
like,
they don't
but
know
if you
if
say
they
I
believe
don't believe in God, and then somebody starts saying, oh, you need to form it, it's like I just don't believe in it.
No, you don't, because God is not scientific data.
Right.
There's a big difference between measuring the CO2 levels in the atmosphere and deciding whether or not there's an afterlife.
Right. I'm sorry that I just don't believe in global warming.